Okay, we're going to move on now with our keynote speakers. This is our final keynote speaker before we go into our lunch break. The topic is going to be the global scale of IoT, and we're happy to present the Principal Program Manager from Microsoft, Mr. Kevin Miller. Please give him a warm round of applause.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good afternoon. I'm delighted to be with you here this afternoon to talk a little bit about hyperscale computing, to talk about how we think about IoT, both at the level of global reach and also local reach. We've made some announcements in the press this week. And then a little later, I'm going to invite Fernando Lerdet from the Urban Institute to come up and join me on stage and talk a little bit about what they're doing in Germany built on the Azure platform. So let's go straight to it. I really appreciate a nice big button with a green thing on it. It's easy to find. So when we think about cloud computing, hyperscale, global scale, one of the things that we're always keeping in mind is the desire of customers, the desire of organizations to really transform the way they do business. And a lot of what we do in Azure goes toward that exact desire. We want to make it so people can understand better what they currently have, what they're trying to do, what their customers or their end users need, and how they can better meet those needs in a more efficient manner. If you think about it, almost every business now makes decisions based on global averages, not on specific people, specific things, specific times. And that's a lot of what is enabled by cloud computing in general and by IoT in specific, is this ability to move from the global average to something that is personalized, that is created just specifically for a given user, a given situation. So that drives a lot of what we do in Azure, and if we're successful in doing it, we help create a virtuous cycle where customers or companies or organizations better understand what their business is and exactly what the details of or what's happening. They get data, they can analyze the data. Based on the analysis, they can figure out what's really going on at a depth that was not previously very easy to do. And so based on that analysis, then they can make changes in the way they run their business so it runs better. And then the data from that feeds back into the system again. So you can gather better data, you can make better decisions, you can, over time, really transform what you do. So when we build what we build in Azure, part of that is true software as a service offerings like Office 365, like Dynamics, like Power BI. But there's also a platform set of components underneath that are used then by partners like Urban Institute and others to build custom solutions. So kind of all the way at the bottom of that stack, if you will, are core computing capabilities: compute, storage, networking, individual services like IoT Hub and others. And those are foundational for everything that we do. One of the things that really is important to us and I think differentiates us is that we, in all of these cases, we want to give customers and partners the ability to control where they run those sorts of workloads. If you want to run something fully in the public cloud, great. If you want to run it in a private cloud, great. If you want to run it on-premise on something like Azure Stack, great. We believe strongly that over time, more and more computing, more and more workloads move to the cloud. But certainly for the foreseeable future, there are going to be cases where you want some local control over what you're doing and where it's being done. So that is really a big focus for us. And part of that focus then is resulting in a lot of momentum. I've been in the tech industry for a long time at this point, and I have never had it so easy to recruit because things are moving fast and people are excited. And it's getting real. A little while ago, there was a lot more hype than substance. Now there's still a lot of hype. But now there's a lot of substance as well. And there are tremendous opportunities. And the growth pattern has been kind of astonishing. If you think about 1.5 million SQL databases, that's pretty exciting. The number of authentications to go against Active Directory in a week's time, the number of new customers a month, all these measures of how we're doing are pretty encouraging. The one on the bottom left is the group that I work on, and that growth has been, it's been a great ride. We have a really happy team right now because everybody can see that things are moving, and it's really exciting. So we went, over the course of the first few months after we released, from nothing to 1 trillion messages a month, trillion with a T, and then we went from 1 trillion messages a month to 1 trillion messages a week in the course of about 5 weeks. And now, 2 weeks ago, which is the last time I checked, it was 2.1 trillion messages through our cloud gateways. We're going to have a trillion message day pretty soon. And really, there's no end in sight. And it's a tremendous opportunity for us, and it's a tremendously exciting time. So all of that work that we're doing and all of that excitement does show one of the paradoxes of hyperscale computing. Because hyperscale computing is all about, can I ingest humongous amounts of data? Can I do that anywhere in the world? Can I then do analysis on that data? Can I deal with it? Can I make everything available anywhere in the world? Now, the paradox of that is sometimes you want true global scale, and sometimes you want local control. And you have to balance those. And so, if you look in the EU has some of the most strict privacy laws in the world. Germany has, yet again, more strict controls about privacy. And that's embodied in Germany at the federal level, in the criminal code, and also at the local level. The federal piece is called the Federal Data Protection Act. And so, we made an announcement this week about this, and part of the reason is we see this huge opportunity and a huge challenge. Gartner said recently that they believe that the environment of local control versus non-local control was really slowing the adoption of Internet of Things in Germany, and I have no reason to complain about that because I think it's true. And it also, even beyond the regulatory challenges, you have sometimes just local business need to have more control, to know exactly where data is stored, to know who has access to it, and to know which laws apply. And so that really drove our announcement this week of Microsoft Azure Deutschland. So that is an instance of Azure that's really the same as what we run in our data center, our public data centers worldwide. The capabilities are the same, the service level agreements are the same, but the difference is, in this case, it is hosted completely in Germany, and maybe even more importantly, there is a German data trustee that controls access to the data and does the maintenance on the servers that contain that data. And so, therefore, we know that that data is physically located in Germany, it stays in Germany, it is managed by a German organization. And so that allows then kind of a different relationship for a company and the data, and a knowledge that their control over that data is much greater. So in addition to managing the access and to the data and managing the servers that the data runs on, one of the things that this data trustee does is that there's a section in the agreement when you move workloads into Azure Deutschland where the data trustee, basically asserts their control of the data and that it's all done in accordance with this Federal Data Protection Act. So we really believe this should enable another wave of adoption in Germany, and we're really excited about that announcement this week. So again, at some level, this is still hyperscale computing. Hyperscale computing is, big worldwide data. It's also big local data. And that hyperscale computing then enables us to think more richly about the services that we build on top. Again, Microsoft Azure Deutschland is a full Azure instance. And so all of the other things that we build on Azure can, happily run in Azure Deutschland, just with a different data protection and privacy model. So when we think about then what we build on top, we have things like mobility and operations management, more germane to the rest of this talk, Azure IoT Suite, Cortana Analytics Suite, and Power BI. These are all areas that we are investing in heavily that are focus areas for our organization moving forward. I'll talk more about IoT Suite, but let me just, for a moment, talk about Cortana and Power BI. One of the things that, with where the industry is right now around IoT, we've got a lot of connected devices now, and there's a lot of data being gathered. And now the challenge is how you understand what that data means, how you derive the business or organizational value from that data, and then how you go do something with it. And so Cortana is a way that, everything in Cortana is built to deal with the scale of data that can be generated by IoT Suite. And so even in industries where individual devices generate hundreds of gigabytes of data a day, and there are large numbers of those devices, we can support that level of scale with IoT Suite. Cortana Analytics can deal with that sort of data and analyzing it and providing the business insight that comes from that. And then similarly, Power BI is built to visualize data at that scale. If you have a small number of devices, visualizing the data about the devices isn't that hard. If you have 50 devices, you can put them in a table, and a human being can actually deal with that. If you have 50 million devices, putting them in a table would be insane. And so, again, our investment around Power BI allows us to think about that in that way, at scale, globally, at true cloud scale. So now I'll talk a little bit more about Azure IoT specifically. When we look at Azure IoT, it is something of a departure from Microsoft of several years ago, in that our fundamental design here is, we call it, the Internet of Your Things. At one point in the past, we might have said, you can run anything you want as long as it's Windows. You can program whatever you want as long as it's a .NET language. Right now, our approach is the Internet of Things is fundamentally heterogeneous. There's a huge amount of Linux. There's a huge amount of devices that are running really sub-operating systems. They're incredibly basic. We're not going to put Windows on those devices. We're not going to try to put Windows on those devices. We understand that there's a lot of Linux, there's a lot of RTOS, and we have to be there where that takes place. And similarly, as you move through the IoT lifecycle, analysis services, we have Cortana. We love Cortana. A lot of our customers love Cortana. But there are also analysis services in the public domain, in the open source stack. Spark, Cassandra, Kafka. Great. We want to support that too. It's whatever you have, whatever skills you have. We believe it's our mission to meet you there and help you take the next step in transforming your organization based on that. So, based on that desire, where is IoT? I mentioned earlier that there's still plenty of hype, but there's a lot more reality now than there was not very long ago. Partially it's because devices got cheap, communication got cheap and common and ubiquitous, and the state of the art around our ability to deal with huge amounts of data has improved dramatically. We went to general availability of IoT Hub just about 2 months ago. Each IoT Hub will support up to 10 million devices. So we understand that level of scale and beyond. You can have installations that use multiple IoT Hubs. But our ability to deal with that level of data has improved dramatically across the industry. And so now this enables customers to start thinking about how they change their business and how they evolve their business. We've talked about ThyssenKrupp, the elevator company, a lot, partially because they were one of the first companies that we worked really closely with, and partially because we have a legal agreement that lets me talk about them. But it's been interesting to watch their progression. Their initial breakthrough was just finding efficiencies in the way that they did their global maintenance business. And they saved a lot of money. And saving a lot of money is the best way to get an organization to change its behavior. So empowered by saving a lot of money, they started investing some of that savings and trying to find out what else there was that they could do. And part of that is part of this transformation to new businesses is moving from the general to the specific. I mentioned this earlier. If you think about something like healthcare, maintenance, any of these businesses where there's a generalization that's applied to making decisions is less powerful than when it's specific. So if you're a maintenance company and you know nothing about your equipment except the general function of it, then you might have a repair truck that has the most likely to be broken parts in it across the entire organization. But it's a lot better if the truck has the part in it that's most likely to be broken on the next machine you're going to go look at. And that's one of the things that was really transformational to ThyssenKrupp, is that they got to the way they can, with extremely high likelihood, get the right part on the truck when it goes out. And so not only does that save them a lot of money, but it also makes the customers happier, because now they no longer have this experience where it's everyone's least favorite maintenance experience. The maintenance person shows up and says, "You're right, it's broken. No, I don't have the part. I'll be back," right? I mean, that's customer satisfaction tank right there. And so one of the things that we find here is as you move from the general to specific, you can create better outcomes for the people who you serve. So again, when we think about our point of view, we want to connect to whatever it is, no matter what system it runs, no matter what protocol it talks. We want to be able to connect to devices as they are. We want to then be able to help customers find the insights that are in that data. Sometimes it's what you expect, and sometimes it's not what you expect. One of my favorites was a car insurance company trying to determine the risk of an individual driver. Like the initial try at that had a lot of sensors in the car that determined things like acceleration followed quickly by braking. And they really had a huge number of sensors trying to figure it out. They later discovered that the highest predictor of an accident in the United States is how many left turns you make on your way to and from work. Because you're more likely to think, oh, it's turning yellow and I can make it and accelerate and hit somebody. Or you're likely to be hit by somebody doing that thing. So instead of acceleration, deceleration, all these other things, it was left turns. So obviously then what they needed to put in the car to measure was different than they thought. But it allowed them to make a real step forward in how they thought about things. And also this idea about meeting the industry where it is, part of that also goes to this idea of enabling fast solution development and operations when the solution is itself complicated. So when we think about this IoT world, part of what we're looking at is what we call the IoT stack, which is IoT suite for connecting devices, getting data securely from the devices, getting commands and control messages back to the devices in a highly, highly secure way, using Cortana Analytics Suite to make sense of the data, to understand the insights that are sometimes buried in the data. We find this a lot in connected cars and manufacturing and other big data systems where the amount of data generated is huge. And finding the part of that data that's really powerful is a challenge. So Cortana goes kind of like IoT Suite. It goes to this model of trying to let you think about analysis as a whole, rather than as an individual set of services, allowing you to think about the flow and the connection of data, the sort of analysis is required, how you want the data to be persisted for long-term access. As the IoT guy, at some level, I don't care if it's Dynamics or SAP or some other system. But if you can't connect back to the real world, then a lot of this IoT stuff is just academically kind of interesting and not compelling. If you think about the ThyssenKrupp case again, it's their ability to order the right part and get it on the truck with the maintenance technician who knows how to install it at the right time and get them to the customer before it breaks. All of that's business process integration. And that is where a lot of the promise of transformation from IoT comes. So when we think about the suite itself, there's really a combination of things going on here. We instantiate whole solutions. The first one we did was called predictive maintenance. I'm sorry, the first one was remote monitoring. The second one was predictive maintenance. And we have a pipeline of these things being developed. But it takes about 6 minutes to deploy the remote monitoring solution. And at that point, you have an end-to-end working system. And our goal in doing this at some level was to, I think the slide says, increase time to value. But we wanted to take out a bottleneck where the customer, the partner says, I want to do IoT. Oh my God, I don't even know where to start. You know, if you go in the front door of any cloud provider, the first step is like, here are 150 cloud services that you could deploy. Which 12 do you want? And there's a really bad combinatorial math problem right there. And so what we're doing with IoT Suite, and also with our other offerings, is trying to make it so you can get to working code with real data flowing through an analysis pipeline, actions being taken on that data very quickly and easily, and then leverage our partner network to customize that. And the partners bring a real strength here in knowledge of the specific verticals they're talking about. And so I want to introduce Fernando Liardet, sorry. He's from the Urban Institute, and he's been doing some very exciting work on smart cities. UI is an incubator. They're an innovator. They've been around since 2012, and their charter is to assist the European Innovation Partnership. UI supports cities in Germany, other parts of Europe, the United States, and Australia. Please welcome Fernando.
Thank you very much, Kevin. Hello, thank you very much, Kevin, for the nice introduction, and thank you very much, Microsoft, for having us today. The Urban Institute is an incubator, a software company, and a consulting company for helping cities become smarter. And we started this journey 3 years ago, actually 3 years and a half, at the end of 2012, to help cities make sense of the infrastructures that they have and use that data and innovate and create new services. So at the heart of what we do is, with all this data that is available, is to understand how can we create new innovative business models and turn all that data into revenue sources, revenue services for businesses, while helping cities becoming smarter and helping cities with their digitalization of their infrastructure. You would be amazed how much information today cities already have. They have a lot of infrastructures available, a lot of systems available, and they handle tons of data. But the one thing you will find, and also more important than that, tons of dedicated people working with that information every day. The problem is that today, those sources of information are not integrated. They're not able to, sometimes between departments, they don't know what everybody else is available, what data can be useful for us. So the integration of that data is key for cities to start making sense of all the information that they have. Cities already made a great advantage with open data. So publishing some of the data they have available and showing to the citizens and businesses, hey, we have this data available. But still there's something missing. For businesses to create revenue services on that data and making advantage of that, like for instance, services in logistics, services in traffic, it is important that data is real time. So this is what we help cities with, developing. That's why we are. That's why we are working with cities, providing them an open platform built on top of Microsoft Azure to help them interconnect all these different available information sources and publish that data to other services and the city as well. So this is a multi-sided open platform that we use for cities to become smarter and make sense of the information that they have. And we work in different areas. One is, of course, open urban platforms, smart energies for urban district. We also work very much in open urban mobility. This is an interesting case of how you can make sense of a new way to interact with electro vehicles, helping companies with the adoption of that electro vehicles, reducing the TCO of ownership of those vehicles. How we can help also integrated urban infrastructure. There's in Hall 3, you can see a very nice example of how with integrating sensors within the smart lamp, you can deploy new infrastructures in the city instead of taking space from the city, basically integrating sensors and Wi-Fi into the lamps that you already see on the street, and thus enabling new and more innovative services. At the core of what we do is, and that basically is our vehicle, how we deploy innovation into the different cities, is our platform is called Urban Pulse. It's a platform that basically helps us gather information, process it, analyze it, store it, make it available in different ways, in different formats to other businesses and to other cities so that they can develop new innovative services out of that. And it's operational worldwide. As a small example, we're talking today about how much data cities already have. Just in the city of Darmstadt, we are gathering data about their traffic information systems. We are actually more than 500,000 data events per second. That's what we are processing to gather real-time information on the traffic. And interesting enough, we are able to tell the citizens where there are traffic jams in the city without using personal data from their mobile phones, just by reusing and repurposing the information that's already available on the city infrastructures and make them available to other cities as well, like logistic companies, like car companies, and also to the navigational system that people can use. We were working with Microsoft very closely since 2 years and almost 3 years ago. We were the early adopters where we helped mature the first step in this technology was Event Hub. We worked very much together with colleagues in Wiesbaden and Microsoft, and now we are happy that we are beta testers of the Azure Microsoft in Germany. We believe this will be a great enabler of not only for cities and deploying the solution to more cities in Germany and Central Europe, but also to the East Europe, which their data privacy legal framework is also very close to the German one, and they're actually asking how can we adopt this technology as fast as possible. So thank you very much. This is basically, I wanted to give you a very short, very fast innovation. I would like to invite you on the Hall 4, where the Microsoft stand is. You will find the Urban Institute, and you will see there how we can visualize that data, what are we doing with the cities, and you will see how we are, for instance, doing collaboration on environmental data, on energy data, and traffic data, make it available for the cities and for also the citizens, the businesses and citizens. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Fernando.
Thank you.
So I'd like to close with just a moment about Azure IoT in Germany. I'm really delighted about the work that we've been doing here. with Microsoft Azure Deutschland, and I'm very proud that IoT Hub, we announced this week, is one of the initial services that's available in Azure Deutschland. And it's really the beginning of a great journey. The rest of IoT Suite will follow here very shortly. But there is tremendous work being done in Germany around IoT with Industry 4.0 and all these other efforts. I mean, just walking around the grounds here is pretty amazing to see what's happening. And so we wanted to make sure by this big push that we're building our products so that it can be used, again, at the hyperscale global level and also locally in Germany to provide great solutions for our joint customers and partners. I'm so happy to be taking this journey with you. Thank you very much.